recording because I forgot to do that. But basically, so many perfects and completes and all sorts of things going on. It can be really quite confusing what's going on there. Another way, I suppose we can look at this verse, another way to translate this. The word purnam means complete. The word idam refers to this phenomenal world. So Om Purnam Adaha Purnam Idam, the Supreme Lord, Krishna, he is perfect and complete. And this world is also complete. Purnam, Purnam, Purnat, Purnam Udachyate. Because this world has emanated from the complete whole, Krishna. Purnasya Purnam Adaya. Even though so many complete units emanate from him, Purnam Eva Vashishyate. He remains the complete balance. Udachyate here means is produced. And Purnam, as we know, means complete. It can also mean the complete balance. And Eva means even, and Avashishyate means is remaining. If you put these two words together, Eva and Avashishyate, you get Eva Vashishyate, meanings even is remaining. Okay, so the Supreme Lord Krishna, he's perfect, he's complete. And this world is also complete because it's come from the complete whole Krishna. Even though so many complete units come from him, he still remains the complete balance. Yet another way to look at this. I'd like to share this with you. What do you see going on here? K plus mu equals C, K minus mu equals C. Mathematical equation. Anybody understand what might be going on there, given what we've just said about the verse, about the text? And if I said to you that C equals complete, what do you think K equals? Kalindi Krishna, yeah.
Krishna.
And then what do you think MU might stand for?
Material universe.
Yes, you got it. I was going to say, you say this all the time, don't we, as devotees? Material universe, this, material universe, that. Simple way to look at this mantra. Very, very simple way to look at it. This mantra is telling you only one thing. Krishna plus the material universe equals complete. Krishna minus the material universe is also still complete. Correct? So what does that tell us about our relationship with Krishna? As the living entities that come from him, the jivas, what does that tell us? I'm going to keep the chat box open in the side because I'm missing some comments that people are putting there, which are quite nice. So what is this telling us, this mantra telling us about this, our relationship with Krishna? Any thoughts? If he is complete without us and he is complete with us, what does that make us?
We are incomplete without him.
Exactly. We are dependent. We have a dependent relationship. We'll come to this in more detail as we go through the Isopanisad. And we'll even come across some nice, interesting, I could say exercises, but they're not really exercises. So this mantra is telling us that even though all these unlimited and actually perfect incarnations and universes come from Krishna, he always remains complete and perfect in every way. His completeness, his perfection, it never diminishes. This also perhaps raises another question, again, which we're going to come to. If he's perfect and everything that comes from him is also perfect, then does that mean as we, as his fragmental parts and parcels, are also complete and perfect? Park that question in your minds for a few minutes. We're going to come back to it. But just to continue with this little theme of Krishna's perfection and completeness, we're just going to read the first part of Srila Prabhupada's purport together. And then let's just break down what he says there, because I think this is really important. So I'd like somebody please to read what Srila Prabhupada has given us by way of explanation to begin his explanation. Okay, somebody like to read? Maybe Mansi Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanvat Pranam. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
The complete whole or the supreme absolute truth is the complete personality of Godhead. Realization of impersonal Brahman or of Paramatma, the super soul, is incomplete realization of the absolute complete. The supreme personality of Godhead is Satchidanand Vigraha. Realization of impersonal Brahman is realization of his Sat feature or his aspect of eternity, and Paramatma realization is realization of his Sat and Chit features, his aspects of eternity and knowledge. But realization of the personality of Godhead is realization of all the transcendental features, Sat, Chit, and Anand, bliss. When one realizes a supreme person, he realizes these aspects of the absolute truth in their completeness. Vigraha means form. Thus, the complete whole is not formless. If he were formless or if he were less than his creation in any other way, he could not be complete. The complete whole must contain everything, both within and beyond our experience, otherwise, he cannot be complete.
There's a thing for you. Thank you very much, Mansi Mataji. There's a thing for you. Srila Prabhupada makes quite a point there of saying the complete whole, meaning Krishna. He must be everything within our experience, but also beyond that experience. So when people say to you, oh, what about these demons and all this and that? And, they might say it's all phantasmagoria. We just have to remember we're talking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we're also talking about an age where we were not here. We'll come back to, again, a lot of this as we explore the Isopanisad. So we're kind of picking at some of those things that we're going to unlock as we talk about these 18 mantras of the Sri Isopanisad. So Srila Prabhupada tells us the complete whole, Krishna, is the supreme absolute truth. He is Satchidananda Vigraha. So what does that mean? Sat means he is eternal. Chit means he is all-knowing. And Ananda means he is blissful. But more importantly, we say Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal, all-knowing, blissful, and with a beautiful personal form. So when we come across people who say, well, we don't believe in a personal God, you can say, well, we do. I have a form, or I've taken a form. So surely Krishna must be able to have that experience and more. Just a little something, but we're going to come again to this thing about defeating impersonalism. So Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, he explains Krishna to us in this way. And just to make it easy, I have a diagram here I'd like to share with you. If we want to realize Krishna as a person, we need to recognize all of these features. So the Mayavadis, those who want to merge with the Krishna's energy, the Brahman realization, they believe only in this Brahman realization, the Sat aspect of Krishna, and realize only his bodily effulgence, that glow, that warmth that comes from him. And they want to merge in that. And then we have the Jnanis, the Jnani yogis, and their focus is on the Paramatma feature of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says this is the realization of super soul. Paramatma is Krishna's partial expansion. Paramatma is present in everyone's heart and represents Krishna's Sat and Chit features. So his eternality and knowledge. But to realize and have a complete relationship with Krishna, we need to recognize him as Bhagavan. Bhagavan includes his Sat, Chit, and Ananda aspects, and also means he has a Vigraha, a form. So Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing to us here that although Isopanisad can sometimes feel disjointed as we work through it, we'll come to realize that what it's trying to point us towards is to realize this relationship with Krishna as Bhagavan, as a person. In the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma speaks in the 5th chapter, this verse, Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govindaha Sarvakarana Karanam. That Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all, and he has no other origin. He is the prime cause of all causes. Still more so, our Vaishnavacharyas teach that according to the level of the desire of the jiva, the living entity, that's us, we are given the opportunity to achieve a level of understanding, both materially and spiritually. So Vaishnavacharyas teach us that Krishna leaves the door open to a complete understanding of him, because he's always willing to accommodate the desires we have as the jiva souls. Some find solace in the impersonal Mayavadi philosophy and desire to merge, as we said, with Krishna's Brahman feature, his Sat aspect. Others will be drawn to the knowledge aspects of Krishna and take shelter of jnana, his Chit feature. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, Upadrashtanumantacha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapyukto dehismin purusho paraha. He says that in this body, there is yet another enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the supersoul. So Krishna is confirming here the existence of the supersoul that lives in everybody's heart. He's telling Arjuna. And he's explaining to Arjuna here that he knows our desires. He feels what he feels, what we feel. He's our witness and our guide, our permitter. As devotees, however, our goal is to experience that ananda, the bliss. So our relationship with Krishna is one of service, seva. As I said earlier, we pointed out, we have a relationship of dependence on him. So do the demigods. So we recognize all of his features, Satchidananda and Vigraha, and we know him therefore as Bhagavan. We are his fragmental parts and parcels, the jivas. We are also Satchidananda, and we also have a Vigraha, a form. Our scriptures teach us that we recognize him as Adipurusha. You remember the Govindam prayers we sing in the morning. Venum fanantam aravindaladaya taksham bharavatam samasitam buddha sundarangam kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobham Govindam Adipurusham tamaham bhajami. In 14.4 of the Bhagavad Gita, of course, Krishna also confirms something else, talking about that dependence, that dependent relationship with him. He explains to Arjuna, I think in 14.4, Sarvayonisha Konteya Murtaya Sambhavanti Yaha Tasmam Brahma Mahadyanir Aham Ija Pradahapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving Father. Now you're going to do some talking in a short while, which is going to build on what I'm talking about here. But before we go there, I just want to touch on a couple of small points that to continue with this. And in order to do that, let's read the next paragraph. Has anybody got any questions thus far, by the way? No, good. Okay, let's have somebody read, please. Shiromani Mataji, can we have you read, please? I can't hear you very well, Mataji.
The complete whole, the personality of Godhead, has immense potencies. all of which are as complete as he is. Thus, this phenomenal world is also complete in itself. The 24 elements of which this material universe is a temporary manifestation are arranged of this universe. No other unit in the universe need make an extraneous effort to try to maintain the universe. The universe functions on its own time scale, which is fixed by the energy of the complete whole. And when that schedule is completed, this temporary manifestation will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete whole.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Yes. So Srila Prabhupada, in this paragraph, he begins with these words: the complete whole, the personality of Godhead, has immense potencies, all of which are as complete as he is. Thus, this phenomenal world is also complete in itself. Krishna says to Arjuna, doesn't he, in the Bhagavad Gita, Maya Dyakshena Prakriti, Suyate Satcharacharam, Hetunanena Kunteya, Jagat Viparivartate. He says to Arjuna that this material nature is one of my energies. It's working under my direction, O son of Kunti. It's producing all the moving and non-moving beings. And under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So Srila Prabhupada's pointed again to the perfection and completeness of this material world in the first few lines of this part of the explanation. And he also tells us that the material world is a temporary manifestation made up of 24 elements, and that these 24 elements are arranged in such a way as to produce everything necessary for the maintenance and subsistence of this universe. Our Shastra also reveals to us that this universe functions on its own cycle of time. That cycle of time is fixed, as if precisely engineered. And we can prove this. How can we prove it? How can we prove it? Any ideas? How does mankind look at time? How do we all look at time across the globe?
With the clock.
From a clock. And it's the same all around the world, isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it strange how all these minds have converged to agree on something around the world? We don't agree on much as human beings, do we, around the world? But we can agree on what year it is, what day it is, and what time it is. Nobody argues about that because it's fixed. It's so simple, but we just don't see it for what it is. So we can prove it, that this fixed cycle of time is there, and somehow we've all managed to tune into it, and it's become a thing. Almost like I says it, like it's been precisely engineered. And I would go so far as to say, not almost as if it's been precisely engineered. It has been precisely engineered. Interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, as we go through these cycles of time, we make what we call discoveries. Remember, we were talking about Isaac Newton and how we say that he discovered gravity. But actually, gravity is already described in the Vedas. And as we go through cycles of time, we make advances and we unlock things, we learn things. But most amazingly, of course, think about it. Shastra teaches us, and Srila Prabhupada points it out in his purport there, this material universe is made up of 24 elements and a cycle of time. And you put those things together, and hey presto, what happens? The material world starts to function in all sorts of different ways. Let's just have a look briefly at those 24 elements. Again, we're going to discuss this in some more detail in other parts of the Isopanisad. Just have a look at these 24 elements. So we've got the 5 great elements. This is all, by the way, described in the 22nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which tells us how these 24 elements interact with each other to produce what we have in the material universe. So the 5 great elements that Krishna describes are earth, the solid, water, liquid, fire, that's the radiant energy, air, that's gas, and ether is space. Then we have the subtle elements, mind, intelligence, false ego, the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So mind is one, intelligence is one, false ego is one, and the three modes are taken as one of these subtle elements, right? So we've got 5 and 9 there. We've got the 5 working senses. We have voice, we have speech, we have legs for walking, hands for grasping, the anus for evacuation, and the genitals for reproduction. Then we have the 5 knowledge gathering senses. We have the eyes for seeing, the ears for hearing, the nose for smelling, and the tongue for tasting, and touch for feeling. And then we have the 5 sense objects, form, sound, scent, taste, touch. All these together make up how the material world functions. Now, isn't that amazing? In a minute, you're going to talk about perfection and completeness in groups. Just before you do, just think about this, talking about these 24 elements and Krishna's perfection and completeness. We come into this world with empty hands, we leave with empty hands. But the raw material that we need to survive, the food grains, the rain, the sun, the earth, air, the raw materials we need, it's all provided in abundance. Take our homes. They're built with raw materials that comes from the earth. We can mix and manipulate these raw materials that we find on this planet and build our homes. Then we move in, and our minds and our intelligence and our ego and our mood. Remember some of these elements that we're talking about at the beginning? The mind, intelligence, false ego, passion, ignorance, rajas, tamas, and sattva. All these things come together and we produce a character in the home, don't we? We decorate it according to how we want to see it, according to our mood at the time, according to how we interact with other people. And hey presto, we see these 24 elements of Prakriti actually at work in our lives every single day. Science says that, the material world is a result of a big bang of gaseous explosions. Really? Where's the personality? Whereas here in our 24 elements that Krishna refers to, we have mind, we have intelligence, we have our ego, and we have these 3 gunas who are playing with us all the time. It's part of the fabric of our universe. It's been sewn into it. Just something to think about anyway. So talk about completeness. Have a look at this slide. God is complete and has a form. All emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly complete as a complete whole. How is this so? Can you give some practical examples? And if the above statement is true, then why is there suffering in the world? Because if we're perfect, then why do we suffer? If everything is complete and perfect, why do we suffer? And then the last question here is, if we are part of the complete whole, if we are parts and parcels of Krishna, why do we sometimes feel so incomplete? These are the sorts of questions you will get asked in your congregations, and you need to be able to answer them. So I'm going to leave that with you. Let me just put that slide up because I want you to take a screenshot of it. I'm just going to put you into 2 groups, and it's not going to be a long exercise. Literally 5 minutes you've got just to discuss, yeah? And I'm just going to do this as two groups. Have you been in breakout rooms before, by the way? No?
No.
Okay. So you'll be doing a bit, you will be doing some of this, quite a lot of this. You're going to be doing a lot of the work, not me. I'm going to automatically split this into groups. So you may be in different rooms if you're living together. But don't worry so much about that. If you need to not go into that room, don't worry, as long as you're in one of the groups, because I don't know where everybody is. I know some of you in Canada, some of you in India, some of you in Australia. So I'll just put you into groups and see what happens. In a minute, you'll get a little invitation on your screen to join a room. Please join your room and discuss these things, and we're going to come back and have you talk for the next 20 minutes to 4:30. Then we're going to go and talk about the first mantra of the Isopanisad as well. Okay, please join your rooms now.
Hare Krishna, we can hear anything.
Prabhu is yet to join. I think we are waiting for Prabhu to join.
Sorry.
Okay.
I was talking, but I didn't realize I hadn't put the mic on. My apologies. Yeah. Okay. So, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly complete as complete wholes. How is this so? And can you give us some practical examples? Anyone from group one?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat. One doubt, Prabhu. I just received again that I am inviting to the room one.
Yeah.
Should I join again?
No, come out. There's something went wrong with Zoom there. I don't know what happened, but sound started going in the other room, and then it put everybody in the breakout room. So excuse me. Okay, yes, sorry about that. Okay. Arya Govinda Prabhu or Susmita Mataji, one of you, please. Let's hear something. You're muted, Prabhuji. We can't hear you.
Sorry, Prabhu.
That's
We
okay.
were discussing in our own group, sir,
Yes.
that how is God complete, and then
How is God
what-
complete? How is everything here perfect and complete? We know God is complete because he's providing everything. What we need to say is how is everything down here in this material universe perfect and complete? Because it sometimes doesn't
Prabhupada,
feel like it.
I can give I can remember an example given by Prabhupada that
Yeah.
you have produced an aeroplane, but it can't produce another aeroplane by itself.
Yes.
But God has created a mosquito which can provide which can create another mosquito by itself.
Exactly. And we then learn from the mosquito. We look at what Krishna's given it in terms of gravity and energy and vibration and whatever it is that makes it fly. And we've translated what it does in physical laws and we put it into the form of an aeroplane. Now, isn't that amazing? And this all comes from those 24 elements. So in that mosquito, we already have, you know, a combination of all those 24 elements that we were talking about, including the ego and the false ego and the intelligence, because it knows it's got to hide somewhere to bite somebody to feed. Yes? And you see them, don't you? They hide. Mosquitoes. And then aeroplanes also have that same false ego, don't they? Because they've got somebody's ego going into the design and the build and how it looks. So we can actually demonstrate what's going on here. We're going to talk about this in a lot more depth when we talk about, whilst we're talking about mantras 1, 2, and 3. Because how can we actually then prove that there is a God? How can we prove creation? How can we prove there is design behind it? Well, we can. And we're going to demonstrate that over the next few weeks. Okay, let's move on to the next question quickly then. So if everything's, you know, perfect and complete, you know, and everything's so hunky-dory, you know, then why is there suffering in the world? Yeah, Karma Prabhu has put this nice comment in the box there, intelligent design, ID. It's exactly what we're going to come to about on this topic. But just to carry on there, why is there suffering in the world? Sarvavandiya Mataji, you're nodding your head vigorously. Agreeing with me, so why is there suffering?
Sorry, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. So it is because like we find we are an illusion. So we are thinking of producing something which gives us sense gratification.
Yeah, that could be it. Anybody else want to chime in? Any other reasons why there might be suffering in the world? Rangavali Mataji, what do you think?
It's because of our own ignorance that we are suffering. Though we have all the Vedic scriptures, we have the knowledge available, we don't want to accept that because of our false ego, of our envy. So we want to boss over everything. We want to be the owners. We don't want to serve because of our ego or envy.
Ego and ignorance. These are two big things, aren't they? This thing about, you know, experiencing suffering and incompleteness.
Can I say, Prabhuji, something?
Yeah, go on, please.
Yeah, I think that the absence of Shuddha Bhakti within us and we are not totally aware of Krishna consciousness and we are not truly the Shuddha Bhaktas.
Yeah.
And so we are not able to understand the completeness of Krishna.
Yes.
So I think that is one of the deficiency in our suffering.
It is, yeah. I mean, thank you, Mataji. Yes, and you know, when we cast our minds back to Srila Prabhupada's comments in the introduction on the 4 defects of the human condition, we have a propensity to cheat. We make mistakes.
Yeah.
We are illusioned. What's the other one? Last one. What are the 4 defects?
Cheating propensity.
Cheating we have. Go on. Yes. Your voice isn't so clear, so I didn't understand what you just said.
Imperfect senses.
Imperfect senses, exactly. We look at something and we say this is what we're seeing, but actually it might not be what we're seeing. For example, the sun, it's in the sky, right? Looks like a small disk. But if we didn't know any better, you know, we would take it at our you know, as what we see and say, oh, it's a tiny little thing in the sky. But because we know from books and from things that we've been told that actually it's not what we see. It's much bigger than what we see. So ignorance and illusion is what we're talking about. Ignorance. Why is there suffering in the world? And what do we mean by ignorance? We are ignorant to the fact, actually, that there is a complete arrangement in nature for our maintenance and subsistence. What we do is we try to make all these little extra efforts to utilize and manipulate the resources that nature has given us to produce something else to make our life complete or happy in a so-called fashion. Yes. And illusion, Srila Prabhupada refers to this, because everything is there for our maintenance, subsistence, our enjoyment. But we don't want to accept where it's coming from. You know, we come, like I said earlier, we're born with our hands open, empty. We leave with our hands empty. And everything that we have and accumulate between that point of entering with empty hands and leaving this planet with empty hands is provided for us. And some may say, oh, your dad gave it to you, your mum gave it to you. Well, they didn't really. They gave love, they gave nurture, you know, they helped us to grow, but the raw materials, our homes and everything else, they were already here. The raw materials to build those things were already there. All we did was mix and manipulate different natural resources to produce a dwelling place and then call it a home. But we don't acknowledge who put those materials there, where they might have come from. Science tells us that all this is due to a big gas explosion called the Big Bang. We'll explore this in more detail in mantras 1, 2, 3. Once we acknowledge where these resources have come from, who has provided them, we can dovetail our activities with those of Krishna. We're supposed to be fragmental parts of the complete whole. If we're disconnected from that complete whole, then we'll never feel complete, will we? So we have to reconnect back to Krishna to feel whole again. Srila Prabhupada gives us this body-hand example, I think, in one of his purports. He says that hand is a complete unit, only so long as it is attached to the complete body. When you cut the hand from the body, it can't function like a hand. So we may be carrying on, floating around here, oh, making this money, making that money, going to visit this person, visit that person. But where's Krishna in all of this? It's all about my stomach, my tongue, my sensation, my feeling, what I want to see, what I want to do. That's what we've become. We become happy when we dovetail all our social, political, communal, and international activities with Krishna. And that doesn't mean we have to spend all our day in the temple. But what it does mean is we can be thinking about being grateful for what we have, where it's come from. And we can also be thinking about, you know, how we can utilize this to its best advantage without taking advantage of somebody else, without cheating anybody else, without having to lie or make up stories about why we don't want to talk to somebody or see somebody. It's all too much. We just need to be thinking about, okay, Krishna's given me this, I'll try and do a good job of it for him. All our activities should be dovetailed in his service. This is what Srila Prabhupada, of course, teaches us. And this is, of course, what the Isopanisad is teaching us in this invocation. Yes? Om Purnam Adaha Purnam Midam Purnat Purnam Udachyate. So I just want to read this, just to reiterate what Srila Prabhupada says. Kalindi Gopapriya Mataji, yes, you raised your hand.
Prabhu, can you please repeat about that severe hand again?
Say that again.
Severe hand at the body. Can you please repeat? I couldn't understand. That severe hand and the body.
Yes. Yes. So Srila Prabhupada, he gives this example, you know, that the hand, it is a complete whole. Only while it's attached to the complete body. If you cut the hand off, it can't do anything. It can't function like a hand. Your mind has to tell the hand how to move. The same with, if we sever our relationship with Krishna, where are we really going to be? Think about this. Anyway, we'll come to some more of this as we explore the Isopanisad a bit deeper. Any questions on the invocation? No? Okay. Let's move on then. Since we have 30 minutes left, let's move on to mantra 1 and make a start. Just to let you know, for the beginning of next week's class, please have studied the closed book questions for the invocation and mantra 1, so that we can go over them, because your closed book test is only 3 weeks away. And you cannot use any Shastric references to help you with that text. You have to do it from memory. Okay. It's not a difficult test. And have you, who set the essay for the first nectar of instruction for the Upadeshamrita? Who set the text? The essay. Have you been set an essay? Nobody set you an essay?
No.
Oh, okay, they should have done. Okay, so remind me at the end of this class, we'll set the essay for Isopanisad, and then I will talk to the team and find out what they want to do about Upadeshamrita, because that's quite a big essay and it needs to be done before the end of July. So I'll get onto that for you and come back to you. Thank you. Okay, so then let's move on to mantra 1 of the Sri Isopanishad. And yep, Karuna Devaki Mataji. You raised your hand?
Oh, no, I was just, so we have to read this, right?
Yes. Would you like to recite the Sanskrit?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Mantra 1. Isha Vashyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagattayam jagat tena taktena bhunjita ma gridha kashya sivit dhanam
Svidhanam.
vidhanam.
Isha Vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita ma gradaha kasya svidhanam. Yes? And would you like to read the translation?
Yeah. Everything emanates and inemanates that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Krishna, thank you.
So this mantra encapsulates a central theme. And it's one of the themes of the Isopanishad. It's called the Ishavasya principle. Some of our acharyas refer to this as Ishavasya consciousness. We'll come to what that means as we work through it. This mantra is basically teaching us that Krishna is the supreme proprietor. It's telling us you accept your quota and don't be greedy for more. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Everything animate and inanimate, anything that's visible, invisible, that moves, that doesn't move within this universe, it is owned, controlled, and pervaded by the Supreme Lord Krishna. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. One should accept only those things that are necessary and which are set aside as his quota, according to our karma. One shouldn't hanker for more. One may enjoy it, but enjoy it with a slightly renounced spirit. Magradha kasya svidhanam. One should not try to accept the quota of wealth of others, knowing very well to whom they belong. It's an interesting verse, because it's something that we should actually pretty much live by, shouldn't we? Yeah, Karuna Devaki Mataji.
Yeah, would you I'm mute. Would you explain again this
The verse?
the last one? Ma gridha kashya
Yeah.
Anana.
Yeah. Magradha kasya svidhanam. We should
Yeah.
not try to accept the quota or wealth of anyone else, because we should know to whom that wealth or quota belongs to.
So in that sense, like it's like by somewhat like stealing or by force, how that
We'll come
what
to it. We're going to come to it. We're going to explore this. Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah. You see, what Krishna is trying to tell us here is that when you're born into this world, according to your karma, you are given a quota. Something is set aside for you. Might be your family life, your work life, your wealth. All these things come together and you've been given this quota. And this last line is saying basically, you've been given your bit. Now don't try to take somebody else's quota. And that could mean you go to the bank, you borrow more money than you can afford. That's actually taking somebody else's quota, because then you can't afford to repay it back. Or it might be that, you are taking something from your brother or your sister or your friend from somewhere. We'll explore this in more detail as we go through. Ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Absolutely everything in this universe is owned and controlled by Krishna. If you remember in the introductory class, we talked about gravity, and we say that Isaac Newton, he discovered gravity. Then we discovered how gravity is already there, one as a part of the engineering of this universe. Think about it. The apple, when it falls from a tree, right? It hits the floor with a thud, but it doesn't just fall at any old time. It becomes ripe, it becomes heavy, as if by design. And then it hits the ground, and then what happens? Many things can happen. It can become food. It can become food for humans. It can become food for insects or other creatures, even get swallowed up by the earth and biodegraded. Isaac Newton was able to observe that force of gravity. It was already there, but we say he discovered it. So we have a tendency, if you like, to claim ownership of or credit for things that don't actually belong to us, or that we didn't actually have a hand in creating or doing. We can say we observed it. These are some of those deficiencies, those deficiencies of the human condition that Srila Prabhupada talks about in his introduction. We cannot really very well claim to discover something that is already there. We can, however, say that we observed something that no one else has seen as significant in this material world, but is actually very significant. The real question we can perhaps ask is, if these things that we discover, in inverted commas, as we say, are already there, and we can work out mathematical equations and identify the natural laws of physics that make these things work, then how did they come about? Who put them there? How is it that we can put numbers together and actually say, okay, the planets in alignment are lined up perfectly, aligned according to some kind of mathematical equation. And we can prove that if that mathematical equation was even a point out, the whole thing would collapse and blow up. Think about that. That's precise engineering. Now, remember those 24 elements we were talking about in the invocation there. Krishna confirms, of course, this again in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Bhumirapo nala vayu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bina prakriti ashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these 8 together constitute my separate material energies, he says. And he goes on in the 5th chapter, I think it is, of the 5th verse in chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita. Apareyamitastvanyam prakritim vidime param jiva bhutam mahabhaho yayedam dharyate jagat. He says, besides these 8 energies of mine, O mighty armed Arjun, there is another superior energy of mine. It is made up of the living entities, the jivas, who are, and he says this, who are exploiting the resources of this material, inferior nature. So Krishna is confirming to us again that he's the creator, he's the proprietor, he's the controller, he's the maintainer. And then we see here in this verse of the Isopanisad confirmation, or the other way around even. Srila Prabhupada draws our attention in his purport to this mantra, to Krishna's energies. These energies that are owned and controlled by him. What are these energies? Does anybody know what we're talking about?
Internal potency, external potency, marginal potency.
Yeah, you could put it that way. There's two terms that we can, I guess. Let me just show you this. Can summarize what you've just said, really, the external potency, the internal potency, the marginal potency. So these are Krishna's energies as they're owned and controlled by him. We have apara prakriti, his inferior energy. These are the elements of material nature: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, the three gunas. Yes? And then we have para prakriti, or the superior energy, which refers to the living beings, the jiva souls. Yes, we are Sachidananda Vigraha, as we said in the previous verse. So we are part of Krishna's superior energy. Make sense? Everything in this universe is a combination of the para and apara prakritis. Therefore, everything is the property of the supreme being, of Krishna. This is an example of this Purnam that's referred to in the invocation. The Lord is Purnam, he's all perfect and is complete. He's also not subject to the laws of nature. Srila Prabhupada informs us in his introduction that Krishna is like a fire, and everything inorganic and organic is like the heat and light of that fire. And if you put it in that way, we can see how Krishna is the ultimate proprietor, controller, sustainer, and maintainer of everything. This acknowledgement that everything belongs to Krishna and therefore should be used in his service, this is known as, and I mentioned it earlier, the Ishavasya principle, or Ishavasya consciousness.
No one.
The central theme of the Sri Isopanisad is sometimes referred to as the Ishavasya Upanishad. Isha means by the Lord, and Avasya means controlled. That's quite important. In his Srila Madhvacharya, we are members of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Srila Madhvacharya is the Madhva bit, and he connects Prakriti and the Ishavasya principle by teaching us that Ishavasyam, so Isha and Avasyam, actually means fit to be dwelt in by the Lord, because nothing moves without the presence of the Lord. Madhvacharya says in his commentary that Jagatyam means Prakriti. Thus the meaning is the whole world, whatever is within Prakriti, is fit to be dwelt in by Krishna. One should enjoy that which is given, Gyaktena, by the Lord, that word tena. Yes? He also directs us, Madhvacharya, Srila Madhvacharya directs us to the Brahmananda Purana. Where there's a verse, Stavata Pravriti Ashak Ashaktad Ashaktatvad. Stavaha Pravriti Ashaktatvad Ishavasyam Idam Jagat Pravriti Prakriti Gamyasmat Sa Prakriti Ishvaraha Tad Adhina Pravititvat Tad Iyam Sarvam Eva Tad Dataneva Bhunjita Tato Hanyam Prayachaya. It translates as, because the world cannot function on its own, Krishna must dwell within it for it to function. Because he enters Prakriti for it to function, he is called the Lord of Prakriti. Because the functioning of everything is dependent upon Krishna, it is said to belong to him. Therefore, enjoy what is given by him, for he is the owner, and do not ask for anything more. It's interesting, no? Somebody had their hand up a short while ago. I missed it. I don't know. Somebody had a
Hare
question.
Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, go
It
on.
was me.
Yes, Angavali.
Yeah. Could you please explain Isha Vasya again? I didn't understand.
Yeah. Isha Vasyam. So Isha means by the Lord. And Avasyam means control. So that word Isha Vasyam means owned and controlled by the Lord. Yes. This one of these themes of the Isopanisad is the Ishavasya principle or Ishavasya consciousness. In other words, enjoy what is given to you as your quota, but do not try to take more than your quota. Does that make sense? Mataji? Yeah? Good.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada, he connects this. He actually gave a lecture, sorry, in Los Angeles. I'm just trying to find it in, I think it was 1974. Here we are, which talks about this thing, this Ishavasya principle, this Ishavasya consciousness. If somebody would please like to read the following slide. Oh. Here we go. Yes. Somebody like to read, please? Yeah, Gangavali Mataji, please go ahead.
Vasya consciousness, the Krishna consciousness movement is so important. If people simply learn this, that everything belongs to Krishna, avasyam idam sarvam. Sarvam means everything, not that this much is mine, this much is Krishna's. No, sarvam isha vasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita ma grida kasya swid dhanam. Simply we should use as much as he has allotted to us. Then there is peace and prosperity without any difficulty. Otherwise, you go on adjusting your material possessions and time will take away everything. When you die, in due course of time, whatever possessions you have will be finished. That is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. I am death. Krishna is everything. So Krishna is also death. Just like here is a picture of Hiranyakashipu, such a great demon, so proud. He was thinking, I am the proprietor of everything. He was chastising his son, doing whatever he liked. But when Narsimhadev came, within a second, everything was finished. Everything was finished. But Prahlada remained the same. Prahlad is not finished. Hiranyakashipu is finished. So those who are trying to be very, very big by material possessions, they will be finished. But if you remain in the position of Prahlada, you will never be finished. Lecture, Srimad Bhagavatam 1.16.24, Los Angeles 74.
Thank you very much.
Hare
It's a lovely lecture, that, isn't it? Lovely excerpt. Prabhupada certainly had a way with words. So tena tyaktena bhunjita. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that except for Krishna, no one is a proprietor of anything. We should only accept those things that he sets aside for us. Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, the cow, for instance, she gives milk, but she doesn't drink that milk. Some of it is designated for her calf. She eats grass and straw, and her milk is designated for her calf and as food for human beings. This is the arrangement of the Lord. So we should be satisfied with those things he has kindly set aside for us. And we should also consider to whom those things actually belong. The standard of human life, Srila Prabhupada writes, cannot be applied to animals. The tiger, he doesn't eat rice or wheat, and he doesn't drink cow's milk because he's been given food in the shape of animal flesh. Some animals and birds are vegetarian, others are not. But none of them break the laws of nature, because those laws of nature have been put into place by the Lord. These animals, these birds, these reptiles, these insects, and other lower forms of life, they strictly adhere to their karma. Karma means action, yes? They adhere to the laws of nature. There's no question of sin for them, nor are any of the instructions of the Vedas meant for those animals. Nor do they have to take any responsibility, because that's their nature. They're just doing what they're supposed to do. Human life alone, it's a life of responsibility. We live in this planet and we enjoy. But actually, we've forgotten that actually human life is a life of responsibility. Our position here as stewards of this planet, we should be looking after this planet and its resources and its people and its animals and everything else. Prabhupada even points out to us that it's even wrong to simply think and be proud that, oh, I'm a vegetarian, I'm so proud. I'm not breaking any laws of nature. Vegetables also have a life. And it is nature's law that one living being has to feed off another. Animals don't have a developed sense of consciousness by which they can recognize Krishna. But for a human being, we have this intelligence to take these lessons from the Vedic literatures. And thereby we can understand how the laws of nature are working under Krishna's direction. Kalindi Mataji, yes. Kalindi Gopi Priya Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Prabhu, by keeping pets, actually humans are violating the this laws, right?
Are they? I challenge
Because
you on that. Why would I challenge you on that?
because animals, they have that born instinct to feed on other animals, but they are provided something else, and by the humans, they're restricting their freedom. So that we are actually changing the laws, right?
Okay, so let me put it round another way. Where do you live, Mataji? Do you live anywhere near Mayapur?
Bangalore.
Bangalore, okay. So Bangalore's a big city, built up city. Yeah. And before we came there to Bangalore, it was a little village before humans started populating it. No? And yeah, we have to have somewhere to live. And then all of a sudden it became a very, very big city. And then what happens to the dogs and the cats and the animals and the pets that people shouldn't have? What do you see happening in India when you walk around the road? What do you see in the street? Stray cats, stray dogs. Yeah. And they're not in a good condition, are they? Mostly they are sick, diseased, dirty. And if you come here to where I'm staying, you won't see animals and cats and stray dogs on the street. You will see them cared for, fed and looked after by human beings, not kicked in the street because they're in the way. If you kick a dog in the street here, they will lock you up and put you in jail. While I was in Mayapur, I saw a security guard to the temple hit a dog, beat a dog because it was lying outside the temple door in the way. That's wrong. If it was a human being, would you kick it because he's lying there? You'd ask him to move nicely, wouldn't you? So you can get some food or something and you can throw it towards the dog, it'll move. Why kick it? Why beat it up? And yet then we'll go around in our Hare Krishna mood and say, oh, we are all living entities. Jiva soul is also there. Dog is also part and parcel of Krishna. Should we not look after him if he's hungry? If he has nowhere to live? It's not, the Ishavasya principle is not just about accepting our quota and thank you very much. We must also be mindful of the other things that make up this planet. Compassion, kindness. Does that make sense? Yeah. Here in the UK, if you abuse an animal, they will put you in jail. If they catch you, they will put you in jail for animal cruelty. I'm sure that they do this in other parts of the world as well. You know, and yes, India has a very unique situation. It's a very populated country, not just in terms of human population, but animal population. You know, and the heat and, scarcity of water and sometimes food in some places will make things difficult and challenging. And we will fight with nature for our resources, because what is the human instinct is to first feed our own belly. No? Think about this when we're thinking about the laws of nature. If you leave a big bag of wheat outside in the or rice outside in the street, you've probably heard this before. What will happen to it? If an animal comes along, what will happen to it? Kalindi Mataji, you're muted. Unmute yourself so you can speak. That's it.
It only take its own quota, whereas human will store for that day and also for the future.
Human will take the whole bag and keep storing it. Even if it goes off, it will store it and throw it away. That's what we do.
Animals leave for others also, so that other animals can feed.
Yeah. So there's lots of things that the Isopanisad can actually drive us towards thinking about. Yes, please. Is it Shashi Prabhu? Shashi Prabhu, yes. Go on.
Yeah, Prabhu. Yeah, sorry for interrupting.
That's okay.
Yeah, we talk about animals. We are talking about animals. What about other living entities?
What about
like ants, insects? Without even our knowledge, we would have harmed them.
Yes.
Then
exactly.
are we not?
Yeah.
Are we not? Because they are also living creatures.
They are. But we have to remember something that, if we're walking down the road, we're not always going to see some of the tiniest insects. Believe it or not, we are constantly killing things on our body and around us all the time that we can't even see. With air fresheners, with washing powders and soaps, and then we go into the things like the holy rivers and then we bathe ourselves with soap. Now, this is going to harm the environment, isn't it? There's all sorts of things that we can be doing here. Your point is a very good one, Shashi Prabhu there. We can be walking down the road and kill millions of ants without even realizing we've walked all over them. But for that, we suffer no karma because it's not an intention. But if we're in our home, now, here's a good example. I lived in Mayapur for some time, and you know how hot it gets. And then in the summer, the little red ants come, and they get everywhere. And they bite. Oh, do they bite hard? Now, what do you do with the ants when they come into the home? So some devotees are using chalk. Just plain chalk, because they don't like the chalk. And then others are using the poison chalk, which kills them. Now, is there karma involved there? There's some deep questions that we will be going through and asking ourselves through this series of the Isopanisad. They're not going to all be answered in this one session. So here, we're going to end on this thing, okay? Responsibility. Human life alone is a life of responsibility. I want you to think about that, because you're going to be coming back next week to talk about responsibility and the instructions of our Shastra, and actually what we can learn from all of this. We're going to stop there. Any questions? Because it's nearly 5 o'clock, and we've just about covered in the invocation and mantra one, so we did quite well today. Any questions? Yes, Rangavali Mataji.
So you said we'll be by killing ants and insects and all, we'll be accumulating the karma.
If we go and do it deliberately, of course we will, huh?
So
There is
what
no
about
reason to kill it. There is another way to collect ants. This is what I used to do in Mayapur. Now, I used to get a little pot and put some honey in it overnight and just leave it in the area where I know the ants are collecting. By the morning, the whole thing is covered in ants. I put it into a bag and put it in the field. They're gone. All right, they're going to come. Few are going to come. Few are going to come because they've made a trail now. They're going to smell that trail. They're going to keep coming. And once they've figured out, oh, this guy will give me honey, they'll probably come even more. But we don't have to kill them. Yes. It's like,
So,
you know, you'll be walking in a dham, say, and there might be a dog there that's in our way. Do we kick it or do we walk around it?
you walk around it.
Walk around it. It's about how we apply this consciousness that we have been given in our everyday lives. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn about what we can do, how we can do it better.
But sometimes we have been taught that by Prabhupada that we have to be clean, especially like we ladies, we are always in the kitchen cooking for everybody, for Krishna and everyone. So we are very cautious, you know, that there shouldn't be any insects or anything.
Exactly.
So we want to avoid them.
Yes.
So we tend to use some pesticides or
To get rid of them. And it has
so
become,
how should we deal with that, Prabhu?
it's become a thing, hasn't it? It's become a thing that we do. We don't like something, destroy it, kill it, get it out of the way. We don't think about other ways that we can tackle this. I used to be incredibly scared of spiders, right? I'm 57 years old. Until this year, beginning of this year, January, if I saw a spider, I'd be jumping on the nearest sofa, right? Or locking the door and not coming into the room till I know the spider is either dead or gone, even if it's this small. Okay, it sounds terrible, doesn't it? It sounds really weak. But in India this year, I was staying in a room and there were several spiders there. And the first couple of nights, I was, you know, my hairs were on end. I was so scared. But I got used to them. And I realized they're not actually going to bite me. And instead of trying to shoo them out the door with a broom and accidentally sometimes even killing them, I don't anymore. Now, my room upstairs here in my home is home to a few spiders. They like my room because my windows are always open, so they can come in at night. Because the lights are on at night because I work late, it attracts them. It attracts the flies, so the spiders follow the flies. And I don't want the flies in there like the mosquitoes, but I don't want to kill them. So I let the spiders in because they'll take care of the spiders. They'll take care of the flies. And now I've realized that the spider can sit there, he's not going to touch. He's not interested in me, he's interested in his dinner. Right? But I have found that if he gets in my way, I can get rid of him very easily, and I keep a plastic cup up there. Right? And I cover the spider in a plastic glass, slide a sheet of paper under the glass with the paper up with the cup on the paper and the spider on the paper and the spider underneath the cup. I put it out the window and it's gone. Before, I would be very scared to even do that because I'd be too near the spider, but I'm not anymore. It took me 57 years, I guess, to get over it. Only this year I got over it. Anyway. So my doorbell is going. That's my next meeting is just here. One of my clients has just arrived. So I'm going to let you go. Be nice to see you all today. And next week, I want you to really think while you're at home. Next week, Thursday is our next class. We're going to cover mantras 2 and 3, and we're going to start on mantra at least 4 if we can as well, because we have a limited amount of time within which to complete the whole Isopanisad. So hopefully you can you understood today's class okay. If there's anything you don't understand, please message me in the WhatsApp group because I have to leave you now. Have a wonderful few days and I'll see you all on Thursday. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrindaki. Okay. Hare Krishna, everybody, and we'll see you on.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.